Welcome to Love Talk. I'm Gregory Morgan. I'm happy to be here with you today. Words and images arise together, and that portrayed in a desirable fashion, a desirable environment, will make you want to seek out those words and images. Wouldn't it be a good idea to use words and images to bring forth the most positive aspects of your character, to bring forth perhaps hidden or unknown resources that you possess already? You already possess vast resources that, for the most part, your environment, your religion, your family, the people around you have, for the most part, suppressed, denied, and in other fashions thwarted your very best intentions. I think that most people grow up or are born or come into the world excited about life, completely turned on, can't wait to see what's the next day. You ever try to put a kid to bed? They don't want to go to bed. They don't want to sleep. Sleeping's for later. We all come into the world that way. Now look at us. What happened over the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years, right? Something happened. What I'm going to say happened is that you were programmed to be suppressed. You were programmed to believe that you were limited. You were programmed. Now, nobody intentionally did that on purpose to be mean, although there are people that do that. And there are certainly religions that do that, and there are government systems that I'm sure you're fully aware of that do that. There are social systems and cultures who purposely impose from the outside limitations on what you are to believe, on what you are to think of yourself, on your ability to be fully self-expressed, to be, especially if that full self-expression involves sexuality. For God's sakes, when we're children and children are sexual, if children express any form of sexuality, well, that is immediately suppressed as being a bad thing or a wrong thing. If women express their sexuality, well, that's certainly, threatening to many cultures and societies, so that is expressed as being a bad thing or a wrong thing. And if you're a woman in one of those cultures, you're taught right away that you better not ever express any kind of open sexuality or sensuality or even beauty out in the open or out in public, and maybe not even in private. And you could even be punished for doing so. Those are all programs that are put upon us, or by our culture, by our societies, by the environment. Rather than calling it conditioning, I'm going to call it programming for the sake of this conversation about neuro-linguistic programming. So that's my area of expertise, is neuro-linguistic programming, in which I assist the people, my private clients, and also the people in the workshops that I lead for men, public workshops that we lead also for women and couples. Many of you know my wife, Dr. Azita Sayan, and she leads women's workshops. And in those workshops, we learn to use language in a way that is empowering, in a way that blows away some of those limited earlier beliefs, so that you can see the world newly, see yourself newly, see your life in a new way. You begin to automatically behave in ways that are in line with your new point of view. You begin to behave in ways that are in line with this new image of yourself and of the world and of life and of your past, of your parents, of your culture, of your husband or wife. So you begin to behave in new ways, and you don't have to remember it. You don't have to memorize it. You don't have to take notes about it and refer back to it to make sure you're doing it right. It's not an academic type of learning that we do in our private sessions or in our seminars and workshops. It is more of an internal, an inner re-examination of how you see life, so that you can come to your own conclusions about things. And of course, we guide you to see the most empowering view of your own life, of your own past, and begin to put some of the negative stories and feelings and beliefs that you've made up about your life, particularly the ones that make you appear to be a victim of life, the stories that you've told 1,000 times, the sad, terrible, awful things that have happened to you that you tell over and over again in an attempt to elicit some kind of a sympathy towards you as a victim, and also to be in an attempt to avoid any responsibility for the obvious limitations that you have, since you're a victim of these circumstances. Many people love to portray themselves as a victim of life, as a victim victim of others, as a victim of the circumstances, because what better way to never have to claim responsibility for your life? What better way to never have to actually step up and say, you know what, I had something to do with all of this, and I can change it, and I will change it. I choose right now to live my life differently. I choose right now to forever stop telling those negative stories about myself and my life and my circumstances, and to be a warrior instead of a victim, to be a winner instead of a loser. And when I use the word warrior, I'm talking about the truest aspect of a warrior. A spiritual warrior. I'm not talking about a fighter that's fighting for a cause. I'm not talking about a fighter that likes to fight because they want to express their violence and their anger. I'm talking about a warrior who humbly and peacefully examines themselves in such a way as to overcome their own internal weaknesses, their own absence, their own lack of presence, and works to build strength where there was weakness in themselves in order to address life in the most powerful way possible, in order to address the conflicts that arise within themselves first, and then with others in the world in the most peaceful way that will do the most positive good and have the most positive outcome for all concerned. That is what I call a warrior. A warrior faces their own fears, overcomes their own fears and their own weaknesses for the sake of all mankind, for the sake of humanity, for the sake of the species, for the world. Why? Because they can. Not because they have to, not because somebody told them they should. A warrior chooses to be a warrior, a spiritual warrior, an insight one has into the very nature of life itself. So that's the type of work that we do through neuro-linguistic programming and through a form that I call advanced neurological repatterning. Advanced, why is it advanced? Because NLP, or neuro-linguistic programming, has been around 40, 50 years now. It began in around the 70s, so about 40 years now. Plus, the practice of neuro-linguistic programming has slowly gained popularity and slowly gained usage throughout the world. Psychology, of course, has been around even longer. Other forms of work, hypnotism, Ericksonian hypnosis. It is well known that hypnosis is a very advanced way of performing therapy. Now, when I say hypnotherapy, I'm talking about a therapy that takes place inside of a state of hypnosis, or a light state of trance, what I would call a state of trance. If you're wondering what a state of trance looks like, if you've been sitting there listening to me speaking, I've been speaking now for about 15 minutes. If you haven't noticed the time go by, if you've been absorbed in the conversation, you forgot to notice your feet on the floor, or that you were sitting in a chair, any number of other things that you may have not noticed because you've been focused and alert, then you have been in a light state of trance. That is, you're awake and alert, relaxed, and focused on a field of energy while you're tuning out other data that may be coming into your ears or your eyes. In other words, when you're driving your car listening to music, and have you ever driven someplace and then, it seemed like the time just flew by and you don't even remember driving there. You arrive at your destination. The time spent in that little capsule seems to have just gone by. That is a state of trance. It's a state of trance where you're alert and relaxed and focused. That's an excellent state of being, state of mind for learning and exploring the subconscious mind, and it's an excellent state of mind for reprogramming or repatterning one's thoughts, especially those limiting thoughts that may have held you back or kept you from growing and being fully self-expressed, feeling all the love and passion that you have for life, and or maybe kept you feeling stuck in some emotion that you keep feeling over and over and over again, and you can't seem to get out of it. So advanced neurological repatterning, which is my area of expertise, that's what I do with my clients. Without anybody actually realizing that that's what's happening, we're actually repatterning our old ways of thinking, and we're actually repatterning our old ways of being. And then when people come out of the workshop, well, they find that they've changed, and they couldn't exactly tell you how that happened. So that's the brilliance of working with a number of people together. And it's also, I didn't invent advanced neurological repatterning. I learned it and studied it over years of learning various disciplines, and then one moment over a few months period, they all came together. Advanced neurological repatterning is the result of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, hypnotherapy, or specifically Ericksonian hypnosis. Milton Erickson was a brilliant, genius hypnotherapist who invented a style of hypnotherapy which was basically, he would tell a story, and in the story he would use metaphors. Now there's other people that you may have heard of in life, Jesus Christ, Buddha, a few others. I'm not saying that he's like that, but there are other people in life who have used this technique of speaking in metaphors in such a way that you learned a lesson. The person in the metaphor, the story that was being told, would learn a lesson or have a change or a realization or a transformation. And by listening to the story, you had this realization and transformation and change yourself. So it is a style of hypnosis in which basically it's storytelling, but the story has a point to it, and the person listening to the story ends up having an insight or a realization which they claim as their own, because it is. If you listen to this story, you have the insight. I didn't make you have the insight. I told the story. You had the insight, you see? Obviously, there's a technique and a technology to this storytelling. It can't be a pointless story, otherwise no insight, yes? So they're very well-designed stories that take place, have a hypnotic effect, and in the event and in live events, a number of people, the people go along on this journey together, and in the end, when they share with each other what they've learned or the insights they have, it is then that they realized, wow, I just had a whole insight about my life, and that problem that I used to have, that used to hold me back, that used to keep me small, well, it just seems so small now. It seems like that could never hurt me again. I could never believe that again. You know, there was a time in your life, as in mine. For example, let's take an example that we all have in common. I'm going to assume that if you're watching this show, you're an adult. So there was a time in your life when you believed that you were 7 years old. Now, you may have been 7 years old, and everybody told you you were 7 years old, and 7 years may have passed since the day you were born. You believed that you were 7 years old. Now look at you today. Could you ever believe that again? Now, some of you may still believe that, and some of you may still act like 7-year-old. But I'm talking about, could you ever actually truly believe that you're 7 years old? If somebody asked you, how old are you, you wouldn't be able to believe that you're 7 years old. In other words, there are beliefs that we've all had that now we don't have, and you could never get that belief back. You'd have to really try hard to pretend to believe that you're 7 years old if you're watching this show. The same is true for some of the negative beliefs that you have about your own life, some of the negative feelings that you have about your own life. Now, one of the illusions that is produced by certain forms of classical forms of psychology and psychoanalysis, other forms of self-exploration, one of the beliefs that have come about is that past negative experiences in your life, you have had significant emotional experiences that were negative. You didn't like it, basically. It's what it comes down to. You didn't like it. It was uncomfortable, you were scared, you felt embarrassed, you were hurt, whatever it was. There was some emotion that was produced that you didn't like, and you got stuck with that emotion, okay? It got stuck there. You didn't resolve it at the time. Maybe you were a child and you didn't have the ability to resolve it. But now, here you are an adult, and you're still stuck with this child's emotion or this incident from the past that, if you look, the incident is gone. The past is gone. The incident is gone. You may even have photographs of this bad experience, but it doesn't matter. It's gone. It's in the past. And yet you are allowing it. You're carrying it forward into the future, day to day to day to day to day, so that your present moment is influenced by this negative experience from the past. And if you look out into your future, you'll see that you've even projected it so that it will always be that way out in the future. One of the illusions is that negative experiences from the past cause your state of mind in the present. Now, I'm here to tell you that nothing is further from the truth. I'm going to completely blow holes in that theory I'm going to poke holes in that lifeboat until it completely sinks. So you won't have any way of believing that your negative past has caused you to be who you are today and has determined who you're going to be in the future. Neuro-linguistic programming, and in particular, a later generation version of it that I'm practicing and have been practicing for the last couple of years, called advanced neurological repatterning. And I don't use those words very much because most people get confused because they're sort of big words, advanced neurological repatterning. I tend to just say, yes, I'm a life coach, I'm a relationship coach, and I help people overcome bad habits and plan and design a life that they love. That's what I do. And how I do it, through advanced neurological repatterning, I help people to realize that it is not the past that is giving them the future. In fact, the past has no ability to influence who you are right now and who you are in the future unless you say so. And the saying part is the part that I want to address in neuro-linguistic programming, because people think, well, I have to say it out loud. Well, you have said it out loud for a lot of times. The negative stories that you've carried around in the past, you've repeated them 1,000 times. You have the long version, like the 3-hour version. You've got the 30-minute version. You got the 5-minute version. You've got the innuendo version where you sort of indicate it so people will ask you about it. And then you have the part that you just tell yourself over and over and over. While you're driving, while you're in the shower, when you're with your best friend, you've told these stories to yourself over and over and over, and they have images, they have thoughts, they have colors, they have word phrases that are strung together, and they even have physical gestures that you've done. Maybe you hit your head when you talk about it, or you bite your lip, or you do some other physical thing that you do. Every time you think about or tell about this story, or that you repeat this story, and those physical gestures are actually called anchors. So you've anchored in these negative experiences that keep this emotion around. Now, interesting thing about negative emotions is they become addictive. In neuro-linguistic programming, part of what we have to do is break the trance that you're already in. You've hypnotized yourself. And by the way, when we talk about hypnotherapy, all hypnotism is self-hypnotism. I cannot hypnotize you. Nobody can hypnotize you. You must hypnotize yourself. You go into agreement with a hypnotist. Hypnotism has a great deal to do with imagine and pretend. In fact, hypnotism is imagine and pretend. If I say, imagine being by a beautiful beach and you're completely relaxed and the sun is shining and the ocean is washing up very gently on the sand and washing it away, and you draw a heart in the sand and the ocean comes in and washes it away, I'm pretty sure that most of you imagined an image like that as I was speaking it. Even if you're doing something else, even if you're cooking or doing something else while you're listening to these words, most of you, I'm going to say all of you, had some form of image that occurred in your mind. I just said the words. You did the hypnotism. Do you see what I'm saying? You imagined and pretended to see, even though you weren't at the beach, unless you are. I doubt if you're watching television at the beach, but you imagined and you pretended to see what I was talking about. That's what hypnotism is. That's all it is. So if I can have a conversation with you in a private session or by Skype or in one of our workshops or seminars, but that's what we do in our sessions, is speak in such a way that you can relax and feel safe to see the positive aspects of your life. Then in that relaxed, altered state in which you are focused and calm, we're able to look at situations and circumstances that may have been upsetting to you, and we're able to untangle and detach from those images and thoughts and feelings, and almost every case completely erase them just like the water comes in and washes away something that you've written in the sand. You can wash away negative thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and listen, they don't come back unless you put them back. And that's what I've been trying to tell you all along. Negative experiences from the past cause negative emotions today. That is a theory. It is not a fact. The fact has to do with that you continue to reinforce your memory of those negative feelings. You continue to reinforce your experience of those negative happenings by talking about them, writing about them, and in some cases, that has become a part of your identity. You know, I was raped. My father used to beat me. I wasn't smart in school. Or because I was a girl, I was molested. Or because I was a boy, I was molested. Or because I'm Iranian, or I'm Jewish, or I'm American, or I'm black, or I'm white, I didn't have the same chance that everybody else had, you see? And so you keep telling those stories, and until it becomes a part of your identity. It actually becomes who you are. There are people who have turned entire careers, and in many cases, it's a very positive thing. I know one particular woman who was a cancer survivor, okay? She got cancer, did whatever she did, and she survived it. She beat the cancer, only to find that years later, she had another cancer. She beat that cancer. She had another. This woman has had 7 different kinds of cancer in different parts of her body. In other words, she is a cancer survivor as a career. Now, when she beat the first cancer, she went around and started talking about it and sharing with other people, and she gives the most empowering lecture. It brings tears to your eyes. It opens your heart. It's very, very touching. It's very empowering, and it's a very emotional and beautiful talk that she gives. And in this talk, she talks about all the pain and suffering and the bad experience that she had when she had the cancer and all the things that she went through and her family and everything like that. So in other words, she makes very real for a large number of people, that she had cancer, that she is a cancer survivor, and she conjures up energy and images and thoughts and feelings in the imaginations of her audience, thereby becoming even more real about this cancer. And so it's not surprising from my point of view that she would get it again, you see. And then she got it again and again and again. And I told her, when are you going to give up the idea that you're a cancer survivor? You're a human being, you survived cancer, but that was a long time ago. That was in the past. Even if it was 2 days ago, even if it was yesterday, it's still in the past. It's gone. You know, when it's gone, it's gone. And if it's really gone, then it's really gone. Why are we still talking about it is my question. Well, it had become her career. It had become her identity. She had cancer survivor t-shirts. She had Let's Beat Cancer campaigns going on. She ran for cancer. She walked for cancer. She spoke for cancer. Her entire identity was about what? Surviving cancer. Now, if there's no cancer to survive, she's got nothing to do. If there was no cancer to survive, she wouldn't have a career. She'd have to go do something else. She would have to find something else to do. It's just one example. I'm sure you've each, in some form or another, met somebody who was, a survivor of incest, or a survivor of bad marriage. That's a very common one. Maybe you survived divorce, or maybe you survived the death of a spouse or a child. And these are all horrible things to have happened in your life. And believe me, I'm not without compassion about that, and I'm not diminishing in any way the intense, powerful type of experience that is. But I do want to enlighten you about the nature of significant emotional experiences, okay, and their place in our life. And that leads me to just mention, as an aside, that is why we called our company Embrace Growth. Whatever you can embrace and fully integrate, okay? When you embrace something, you take it into your heart, yes? That's when you think of embracing a lover or embracing a family member or a child. You bring them in close to you so that you actually hold them in your arms and cherish them, and you infuse those beings that you're hugging with a kind of love and energy and life force, yes? So when I say embrace growth, I'm really saying, with the company name, it's actually a subtle, not very subtle, I meant to say it is a subtle command to actually pull the things that cause you to grow and develop to you. Now, a lot of people sort of unwillingly go towards growth and development. They plod along, hoping that some teacher or some subject or something will infuse some passion into them so that they can get up and go learn something and develop something and grow a little bit. Some people don't want to grow at all. They want things to stay exactly the way they are. Some of us live for growth and development. And I want to tell you that if you're not growing and developing, you're dying. You're going backwards, because the force of life is like a river. It's moving forward constantly, and it's very powerful, and it doesn't care whether you come along or not. You can either swim in the direction of the river, you can try to swim against the river, or you can try to stand still in the river. But in any event, life is going and moving constantly, and if you're not moving with it and swimming with the direction that the river of life is flowing, you will eventually wear yourself out. Whereas when you swim with the direction of life towards growth and development, you will be constantly renewed. You'll actually find yourself, and I can verify this from my own life's experience, you can get younger. I'm actually now younger than I was when I was 45 years old. I'm physically, mentally, emotionally younger in my thinking. My body feels younger. People tell me I look younger that haven't seen me for a long time. So it's not about me. I'm just saying that I'm living what I'm talking about. So I'm speaking from my own experience that you can actually move in the direction of growth and development and find yourself losing your resistance, losing your old stories about the past, and growing and developing is because the challenges that come up in your life, let's call them significant emotional experiences. That is like the technical term for them, if you will. You don't get through life without having a number of them. Some of them are stronger than others. And if you were to view your life as a graph, sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not so great, sometimes it's excellent, and then it gets really, really bad, and then so forth, right? But for the most part, most of us are moving upwards. If you looked from 0 to 60, you would see that your life has moved for the most part on an upward trend, and there may have been times where it swung down. Maybe something bad happened and you went into a deep valley, or you stopped growing altogether. And then some people, their life is kind of a flat line. They grew until they got to be, when they were a teenager, they got married, and then they pretty much flatlined after that, or something like that. If you were married too young, that is an interruption in a child's development. Now, I know that is very common, or it has been common in the past, for women, and sometimes young men, to be married before they were fully developed as an adult. And when I say fully developed as an adult, anthropologists and sociologists tell us that your bones, your brain, your nervous system, and all that stuff isn't even finished developing until, for a woman, around the age of 22 to 24. And for a man, it's around the age 26, 27. You're not even an adult yet until you get to that age. Okay, you're not done developing and growing in development. So to get married and have children before then is an actual interruption in your development as a child into a full functioning adult. And so I'm against marrying at an early age. I married at an early age, and I got out of it pretty quick, but then I was stupid enough, I went and got married again before I was really old enough to be married. Neither one of those marriages lasted. Finally, when I became an adult, I married my wife, Azita, and I told her, I said, I've been married and divorced before, and when I first met her, I said, I'm not sure I ever want to get married again. And she said, well, then, no sense in talking to me, because, I'm an Iranian woman and I want to be married. I went away for a while, and I came back and I said, here's the deal. I'm never going to get divorced again. So I would love to spend my life with you, and I'm not going to get divorced. So whatever issues or problems that we may ever come up with, let's work them out inside of this marriage. And so consequently, it was harder than I thought. And through studying and growing development, I'm now considered an international relationship expert. I've advised tens of thousands of people on their relationships now, and I've made a career of it, and I've made a point of making sure that my relationship works. So that is a good case of embracing growth, you see. It's a good case of taking something that was painful, that was financially costly, that was costly mentally and socially and economically and spiritually, very costly to get a divorce, taking that and using it to grow and develop beyond my wildest dreams. I never in my life, especially when I was going through a divorce, ever imagined that I would have a show called Love Talk, that I would have a TV show, that I would have a TV show at all. Really, I never imagined that would happen, and that I would have a TV show about helping people with their relationships was beyond my wildest dreams. I never even considered it. The point being that you can take every significant emotional experience in your life and use it for your growth. That challenge was presented to you by your own subconscious mind, which drew that into you in some way. Whether you understand that or not, whether you believe that or not, whether you're firmly entrenched in the belief that you are a victim and that this stuff just happened to you, I'm here to tell you that from my own experience and from my experience with working with thousands of people, that some part of you wanted to learn something and to grow from that experience. So don't waste it, okay? It already cost you a lot. It already hurt. It's already cost you years of experience. So why not use it to grow? How you can know what are the most significant of the significant emotional experiences in your life is in the following way. And these are the ones that we look for when I'm working with people in therapy or in workshops. I'm looking for this. How intense was it? And intensity could be measured by, did it come upon you suddenly? Like, was it a car accident kind of intense? You know, did you get beat up or raped? Like, that's intense. You know, did it impact your body in a number of ways? Did it have a physical impact to it? Did it have an emotional component that was devastating to you emotionally and caused you to shut down or freeze up or lose faith in yourself or in life or in other people? How intense was it? And if you were, again, using that idea or that visual image of a graph, if it was if you've had images that like spiked like that in your life, was it one of those ones that was off the chart, like it peaked way up there outside of your vision, and so that was like the most significant emotional experience in your whole life? So that's one way to measure it, was how intense, how high was the peak, so to speak, on the graph of intensity, and how long did it last? Did it last for a minute? Did it last for a month? Did it last for 5 years? How long was that intense emotional experience? Intensity, how high was the peak? How long did it last? The longevity of that peak, if you will, that experience, because you and I all know that emotions have peaks and then they decline. You know, at some point the intensity of the emotion comes back down. Either you get numb to it, or you take drugs for it, or you or you start drinking, or you just finally get tired of it and go to sleep. Emotional experiences eventually go away or return down to some kind of normalcy. If it was intense enough, you will be on hyper alert for looking out for anything that even vaguely causes you to remember or relive or recall that experience. You'll be on the watch out for that, what we call hyper alert. You will be hyper alert to anything that resembles that, but strangely enough, you will also be attracted to anything that resembles that. You're attracted to experiences that might be like that one that gave you that significant emotional experience, even though it was very negative. That's why you see people who've been raped get raped again. How did that happen? Some people go through their whole life and never get raped. They're perfectly attractive, very beautiful people, but nobody ever rapes them. And then other people get raped, and then they get raped again, and then they get raped again. How the heck does that happen? You got to ask yourself. Something is attracting that person to that type of experience. Now, it's an attempt on a subconscious level to resolve the initial or the first significant emotional experience. The other way that significant emotional experiences are welded, if you will, into your neurology, into your neurological system, is through repetition. Somebody gets molested, it's very painful, it's shocking, it's horrible, they're stunning, they don't know how to deal with it, and then it happens again and again, like maybe weekly or nightly or every other Tuesday or whatever. It gets repeated over and over and over, and then it becomes a part of who they are in their neurology. Their body becomes accustomed to that level of intense negative experience, so it becomes like an addiction. I mentioned earlier in the show that you can actually become addicted to the negative hormones, pheromones, peptides that flood your brain and your neurological system during an intense negative emotional experience. Now, the truth of the matter is, the most addictive drug on the planet that we know of, the most addictive one is adrenaline. The most addictive natural drug that is produced by your hypothalamus, by your body. Your body is like a drugstore. It can produce any drug it needs to heal itself, to medicate itself. And adrenaline is the most addictive. And if you don't believe me, look around the world. Look at what is like happening in the world. If you saw a map of the world right now with a red dot for everywhere there's a war going on or an armed, violent conflict going on, you would notice, because I saw such a map recently, the world is covered with people having intense, emotional, life or death experience, armed to the teeth, and killing and blowing each other up all over the place. I think that pretty much makes my case for that adrenaline is driving this place. You can become addicted to adrenaline. Now if you go to some of the more peaceful places like, I don't know, upstate Washington, Northern California, Oregon, some of the places where there's no war going on, what you will notice is that there is a coffee shop on every corner selling very, very strong stimulants. And so the entire population is addicted to powerful stimulants that do what? Stimulate adrenaline. So I make my case for adrenaline is the most addictive drug in the world. And just about everybody is addicted to it in some form or another. I don't care if you don't drink coffee, you probably drink something or behave in ways that is sure to get you your adrenaline hit before the end of the day. Okay? Everybody gets an adrenaline hit all the time. And they have their ways of doing it. You may start an argument. Okay? You may find that you just suddenly get upset. Okay? That your adrenaline will go up, and you know just the things to say and do to make sure that an upset happens. You may think, oh, I didn't do that on purpose, but your subconscious mind is running the show. The subconscious mind is running the show and allowing the conscious mind to believe that it's in charge. It allows the conscious mind to be in charge. I'll use a metaphor. Imagine a large ocean liner crossing the ocean. This is another one of those stories, okay? Imagine a large ocean liner crossing the ocean with a crew of at least 400 people. And there's one captain and maybe an assistant captain or co-captain, right? Who's running the ship, captain or the crew? If we liken the ship, the vessel, to you, your body, your personality, who you are, if you're the ship and the ocean is life, who's running the ship, your conscious mind or the subconscious mind? If that captain in some way convinced the crew that his decision making was no longer valid, if the crew became convinced that the captain was making wrong decisions, that the captain was heading in the wrong direction, that the captain was doing something wrong, bad, evil, taking them to their death or whatever, the crew could take over the ship. Now, couldn't they? That's called mutiny at sea. It's called mutiny. Many of us are living our lives in a state of mutiny, where the conscious mind thinks it's in charge. You actually think that you're in charge of your life and that you're making the decisions, and then you can't understand why you keep doing these incredibly stupid things that get you in trouble. You can't understand where did that come from. It's like I was possessed. I said this or I did that. Or I know this is bad for me, but I keep doing it. I overeat, or I'm obsessed with porn, or I drink more than I know I'm supposed to, and then I lie to everyone about it. Whatever it is that you do, you have affairs, or all the stuff that you do that you know will destroy your life, that will completely mess you up, and yet you've got yourself and everybody else convinced that you're completely in charge, that you know what you're doing, and that you're driving this ship, so to speak. But the fact of the matter is, your subconscious mind is committing a mutiny. The work that I do with people is to actually get the conscious mind and the subconscious mind aligned so that the ship can powerfully go where it wants to go and be directed and be in so that the conscious mind and the subconscious mind are working in partnership with each other to achieve a common goal, to arrive at a common destination, to produce a result that could be simply to have a life that you love, to have the relationships you've always wanted to have in your life, to stop sabotaging yourself or your relationships or your friendships, to have the career or the job that you have always wanted, that not only makes you a good living, an abundance of money, but helps people, that makes a difference, or that helps your community or your family in some way. I believe that every person that is listening to this talk right now, if you've listened this much, it's because you're actually very interested in having a positive effect on the world. That's the only reason I'm actually having this conversation, is because I want to have a positive effect on the world, and that's the intent. That's what I get up to do every morning. That's why I take a shower. That's why I get a haircut. That's why I shave today. That's why I do what I do, is because I want my life to make a difference in the world. I want the ship that I'm sailing to help carry others to the other side of whatever's stopping them, hurting them, holding them back in their own life. I do this because I believe it's true, that that's true about you. I'm just a normal man. I'm a regular man. If it's true about me, then it must be true about you too. That somehow you want your life to make a difference, and somehow you want your relationships to make a difference, and you want your families to be better. Even if you have a great life and your life is phenomenal and you have plenty of income and your sex life is great and your relationships are impeccable, I know that you want it to even be better. You want to take it to the next level. That is the nature of growth and development. It's human nature. We are the dominant species on the planet because we love to grow and develop ourselves. We love to go find out how much further we can go. Now, I've got phone calls coming in. I'm going to go ahead and take them. Hello, this is Gregory. You're live on the air.
I really enjoy your talk. Thank you so much. I have a question about my son.
Yes?
My son just turned 18.
Okay.
And since he got to high school, he started having this difficult time adjusting and getting into trouble. Well, I tried to help him. I found out that he have ADD. Now, I know that once you talk about ADD, that you don't believe in it, and there shouldn't be any medication. So my husband believed the same thing that you do, but I took him to the doctor, and he got the medication. But still, the medication didn't help him. It just made him just like a zombie, like doing.
I told you. I'm
sitting.
I'm sorry. This is the perfect time. If I'm ever going to say I told you so, this would be the time to do that, right? You got him medication anyhow. Even though you heard what I said and your husband agreed with me, you went and got the medication anyhow. What is that about?
Yeah.
Why did you do that? I want to talk to you. See, he doesn't have a problem. Your son does not have a problem. You got a problem. Sorry. And the worst thing you can do is give him drugs at that moment.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean,
true.
Especially drugs that are designed to suppress their emotion, dull their mind, alter their nervous system so that they don't feel what they're feeling and think what they're thinking and want what they're wanting. That's like cruel.
Yeah.
I mean that very sincerely. I'm not searching for words. It's if you were going to do something to hurt somebody, that would be a perfect thing to do. You know, dull their mind and make them not feel what they are and make them less alive than they are, and then also subtly teach their subconscious mind and their nervous system that you need this drug. What a negative suggestion, because when you find out, which everybody always does, that the drug didn't work or that it made things worse, when everybody finds that out, it's already too late, because now the nervous system wants something. It now wants something. So it's kind of a lead-in to other drugs. It's like teaching it, oh, you're not responsible, your brain and your nervous system doesn't work right, so we're going to fix that for you with this drug. And so that becomes a way of being for the rest of your life if you don't watch out. Now you have to unteach that. And it's really hard to unteach that.
But the problem is he has a wild nature, and I don't know how. Now he is, as you said, like he smokes weed.
Sure.
He has anger problem as well. So I don't.
Well, the weed will make that worse, by the way.
At this stage.
The weed will make the anger problem worse. I'm telling you now, from my own experience, okay, I grew up, I had an anger problem myself. When I'd smoke the weed, no anger problem. As soon as I stopped smoking the weed, anger. Yes. Worse than it was before. Exactly. Worse than before. And I lost my ability in the process to have what I would now call, looking back, normal self-control. Everybody gets mad, right? Everybody gets mad sometimes, or gets irritated, or, annoyed. Back in those days, I had lost my ability to even suppress that or control that, which is what we call sane. We call that normal, when you can control your negative emotions and your outbursts. We call that normal. I had lost the ability to behave normally, and I had these outbursts all the time.
I know, because, I, as a mother, as a parent, we do so many things that it's not right. I always tell my kids that don't think because I'm your mom and we are perfect. So I did so many mistakes, I know that.
Okay.
But the problem is I really want to help him. And I don't know at this stage what can I do, because he doesn't study and he almost smoke weed every day. So I don't know what to do.
Okay, well, let me ask you a couple of things, okay? He's 18 years old, so legally he is a man, not a boy, all right?
Yes.
Mentally and emotionally sounds like he's still a boy, not a man. In a earlier society, traditional societies and cultures, when a boy became really as early as 12, okay? As soon as they started getting testosterone, in other words, they started getting a little hairy, the men, not the women, the men took them away from the women, took them out amongst the men and taught them things like hunting, fishing, taught them how to save their own life, in other words. They put them in frightening and scary situations on purpose so that they would find their own personal power as a man, and with that personal power begin to trust themselves and have a kind of confidence that only men can have, and know that they could be trusted with their own life. And little by little, the men, as only men can do for other men, a woman cannot do this for a man, okay? Only men can do this for men.
Okay.
Help this boy make the transition into manhood, and when he came back into the society, having maybe earned his stripes, maybe he got a feather or a tattoo or a scar of some kind, but they would often change his name, and no one was allowed to call him by his little boy name anymore. They had to call him by his man name, okay, because he had earned that right to be called, to be treated to and related to as a man. And he might be 14 or 16 years old at that age, okay? But certainly by 18, he was expected to carry his weight amongst the other hunters or warriors. He was a man at 18. Do you understand?
Yes.
And it was terrible for the mothers, because, you know, it was awful for the mothers, because they wanted their little boy, right? And they wanted to protect their little boy, and you will be like that for the rest of your life. Sorry, that's your burden in life as a woman. Your son will be 45 years old, and you'll be telling him, you know, make sure you wear your raincoat, right? And that's how it goes. But the greatest gift that you can give him is, and his father, is to have his father, come on, be a father, be a man with this man, and begin to teach him the ways of being a man. Now, chances are, if your husband's under 50 years old, he never got that from his own father.
That's true.
Because this stopped.
The traditional way.
Way long time ago. What I'm talking about stopped a long time ago. And so modern men, my age group included, my age group was probably one of the last to be able to receive that kind of initiation into manhood from older men. I teach a workshop for men that is specifically designed to address this problem for the coming generation. It's called Honor, Integrity, and Mastery, HIM, H-I-M, Honor, Integrity, and Mastery. Register your son in my workshop. I'll get this addressed with him in a 3-day workshop, okay? I know how to do it.
But how can I interest him to do so? Because he is at the age that he...
Well, you can't. You can't interest him. You can just either tell him that it's a condition of living in the house. As long as if he's living in your house, unless he's working and earning his own money, you're paying for his pot. You're paying for his telephone, his computer, his electricity, his shower, his hot water, his car, his insurance, and his pot. You're his supplier. Cut it out. In a normal society, if a man sat around and smoked pot all day, he'd be out on the street because he wouldn't have any money, any food, any clothes, nothing.
Doctor, he works. So I started not giving him money since I saw that.
Well, at least you're not buying his pot anymore. This is Gregory Morgan. It's been a pleasure to speak with you today. I'll talk to you next week.
در کارگاه‌های آموزشی بانوان به رهبری دکتر آزیتا سایان خود واقعیتان و همچنین مردان را بشناسید و با استفاده از قدرت زنانه خود روابطی سالم و عاشقانه بسازید. همبورگ 28 فوریه تا اول مارچ، لس آنجلس 17 تا 19 آپریل، تورنتو 26 تا 28 جون و ایروان ارمنستان 6 تا 8 آگوست برگزار خواهد شد. 310 460 2600 embracegrowth.com
Embrace Growth has a new home online where you can easily register for workshops and events, order from the online store, and be part of the worldwide community of Embrace Growth graduates. You'll be able to see Dr. Rosita Sayan and Mr. Gregory Morgan in your favorite seminars. Visit us today at embracegrowth.com.
یک مرد منحصر به فرد، مسلط، متمرکز، قابل اعتماد و رضایتمند باشید. کارگاه شرافت، عزت کلام و مهارت به رهبری دکتر آزیتا سایان. لس آنجلس 13 تا 15 مارچ، تورنتو 16 تا 18 اکتبر و ایروان ارمنستان 5 تا 7 نوامبر. برای اطلاعات بیشتر با شماره 310 460 2600 تماس بگیرید. اپلیکیشن Embrace Growth با ساختن اکانت شخصی شما می توانید وارد پروفایل خود شده و تنظیمات آن را تغییر دهید. به تمامی رویدادها و محصولات دسترسی داشته باشید. با چند کلیک برای سمینارها و کارگاه‌ها ثبت نام کنید و یا وقت مشاوره خود را رزرو نمایید. اپلیکیشن Embrace Growth را امروز از اپ استور دانلود کنید و به خانواده جهانی Embrace Growth بپیوندید.